Okay, guys, so the next lesson that we're going to learn is solving equations with a variable on both sides. I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about the strategies we'll use to solve an equation with a variable on both sides. I'm going to solve the same equation 4 different ways. And I want to talk to you about easier and harder ways to do this. There are 4 ways you can solve this equation and still get the same answer. But there are ways that will be familiar and there are ways that will be unfamiliar. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first one. When we have a variable on each side, the first thing you want to do is cancel one of the variables. So when you see a variable on both sides, I want you to find the smaller variable. Which one's smaller, 7y or 3y? Okay, 3y is smaller. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel that positive 3y with a negative 3y. And whatever I do to one side, I do it to the other. Notice how y's go with y's. You should not put a y underneath an unlike term. This is where we want to go left to right. 7y minus 3y is 4y. Then you bring down the plus 1. Then there's an equal. Your 3y's cancel, and you bring down your 13. Once you cancel the smaller variable, it turns into a simple 2-step equation like the beginning of the chapter. So once you cancel the variable, now you're going to cancel the numbers on the same side as the letter. We always cancel the number by itself first, the number touching the letter last. So the opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. We bring down our 4y. Our 1's are canceled. Then we have an equal sign. 13 minus 1 is 12. And the opposite of multiply by 4 is divide by 4. And when we do, we get y equals 3. So this is solving an equation with a variable on both sides. By canceling the smaller variable first, we keep the problem a little bit easier to solve. Now, let's do it again. But this time, when I go to cancel a letter, I'm not going to cancel the smaller one. This time, I'm going to cancel the larger letter. So which one's bigger, 7y or 3y? 7y is bigger. So I'm going to start by canceling the bigger letter first. The opposite of positive 7y is negative 7y. And remember, whatever you do to one side, you do it to the other. Y's go with y's. Now you want to go left to right. The 7y's cancel. Then there's a 1. Then there's an equal. Then there's math to do. 3 minus 7 is negative 4y. And then you copy the plus 13. Now, after you cancel one of the variables, it just turns into a simple 2-step equation. Cancel the number by itself by subtracting 13 or doing negative 13. And you get negative 12 equals negative 4y. And then the opposite of multiply by negative 4 is divide by negative 4. And when we do, we get positive 3 equals y. So what I want you guys to notice is how we got the same answer. My computer's been doing weird things, guys. Sorry. Notice how we got the same exact answer. But if you notice when we did the red problem, there were no negative rules. When we canceled the smaller letter, it kept our letters positive. And then as we worked through the problem, there really were no negative rules. But on the blue one, when we canceled the larger letter first, notice how we had negative rules here. Then when we subtract the 13, we have negative rules here. And then when we divide by negative 4, we have another negative rule. So like the red problem had no negative rules. The blue problem had 1, 2, 3 negative rules. So just by using the strategy of canceling the smaller letter first, not only does it keep the problem familiar, but it also can help you avoid negative rules. The other strategy that's happening here is by trying to keep the letter positive, it will help you with some inequality work that we do later on. So of course, you know me, I teach you things that are always going to help you with future lessons. So when we have a variable on each side, you always want to cancel a letter first. You want to try to cancel the smaller. But really, whether you cancel the smaller letter or the bigger letter, it doesn't matter. It still turns out to have the same answer, and it still gets you there. It's just that by canceling the larger letter, you end up with more negative rules. So now what I want to show you, What if you don't cancel a letter first? So these problems down here, I'm going to solve by canceling the 1 or the 13 first. Because really, you can cancel the 7y first, the 1 first, the 3y, or the 13. There's 4 ways to solve this problem. So how you start the problem is everything. All right, let's look at this one. Now, on the green problem, I'm going to start by canceling a number first. So I'll go ahead and cancel the smaller number. And remember, numbers go with numbers. So -1, the opposite of +1 is -1. You shouldn't put a regular number under a letter. Go left to right. Bring down the 7y, the 1's cancel. Bring down the 3y, and then you have math to do. 13 minus 1, that's +12. So now, when you look at this, some of you probably are stuck. Because when you cancel a number first, it doesn't turn into a familiar problem. If you look up here, when we canceled a letter first, notice how it turned into something we knew how to do. When we canceled a letter first, it turned into something we knew how to do. But down here, if you cancel a number first, it doesn't turn into a problem that you know how to do. So you end up getting stuck here. So now, to finish this up, I have to get rid of this 3y. I would have to do -3y, -3y. That gets me 4y equals 12. And then I divide by 4 to get my answer, y equals 3. And that goes with all the answers up above. So by canceling a number first, the problem stays unfamiliar. I'm going to go ahead and do the last one the same way. But this time I'm not going to cancel the 1, I'm going to cancel the 13. So again, when there's a variable on each side, I want you to cancel the smaller letter first. But what if you don't? That's what I'm showing you. Now, you want to go left to right so you make sure your pieces are in the right spot. The first thing I see is a 7y. Then I see math to do. 1 minus 13 is -12 equals a 3y, and then the 13's cancel. So now, after you cancel the number, notice this problem doesn't look familiar. See, when you cancel a letter first up here, it turns into a regular two-step equation that you know how to do. But when you cancel a number here first, it doesn't look familiar. So now I have to move this 7y to the other side. The opposite of positive 7y is -7y. I have to bring down the -12 equals, and I get -4y. And then I divide both sides by -4, and I get 3. Oops, I canceled the wrong thing there. Sorry, that's not supposed to be canceled. And then I get y equals 3. So understanding that, yes, there are 4 ways to solve these problems. But it doesn't mean that all 4 ways are the easiest way. By canceling a letter first, it keeps the problem familiar. But specifically by canceling the smaller letter first, it keeps the math easier. It typically keeps the letter positive, which means in later lessons, you'll have less work to do regarding inequalities. There's a rule that says when you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you have to reverse the direction of the inequality. If you have a strategy in place to keep the letters positive, you won't have to worry about that special rule later on. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that helps you with future lessons, guys. So when we see an equation with a variable on both sides, the first step is always to cancel a letter first. It doesn't matter if you cancel the smaller or the larger, because when you do that, it turns into a regular two-step equation. But canceling the smaller letter keeps it familiar. Okay, guys, so we will continue to work on this in the next lesson, and I'll build off of this then.